So what we have here is the lab procedures that we follow, or that you need to follow, and I'll follow them too. And what this does, it makes it easy on everybody. It makes the lab go a lot smoother, and everybody gets their shot at me. So let's look over the lab procedures really quick and see if y'all got any questions. So what we'll do is we'll work in teams of 2. I think one person will end up working by themselves. So we'll let y'all choose your own partner. Or if you want to, I can put numbers in a box and let y'all draw straws. By the way, I wanted to fit this on one page, so the pitch got pretty small. And not following instructions will deduct from the student's lab grade. All labs must be completed in pencil. Y'all understand that? Okay. So all lab forms need to be in pencil. Depending on the class size, labs are to be done individually or in teams. So we're going to do them in teams here. Of no more than 2 students as directed by the instructor. Before you start a lab, the first thing you're going to do is get a what? Yeah, a solid state lab grade form. So every class has a different form, and the forms might be a little different. We got 2 classes we're doing here. Well, actually, we got 3. And each one of them's got a lab form. The folder for ETC120 has the lab forms in there. So the lab forms will be in this plastic folder. It's got ETC120 SSD, which is solid state devices, is on the little thing right here. Don't pick up the one that says ETC127 digital, right? That's a different lab form. Y'all understand that? Yes or no? Before you start not having a lab grade form, so I come back there, we got everybody who's waiting on a sign off, and I come back here to sign your stuff off, and I say, where's your lab form? I don't have it. You want to run up here and get one? That's fine. I'm going to move on, and we're going to take points off for not following instructions, right? You'll understand that. So we're not going to waste time. It says, do not use a blank lab form for another class. Inform the instructor if forms are not available. Fill in the required information at the top of the solid state lab form before you start the lab. Check the instructor's lab manual for corrections and modifications. So I've never actually used a lab book, except for labs that we wrote ourselves, that there is not any mistakes in. So there'll be this lab book. It's in there. You need something? Look for my solid state. What'd she say? Different color. By the way, I ripped off the document camera. I've been playing around with it. Huh? So it looks like this. Yeah, what's it got on it? See if I get the camera. At the very top, it's got what? Lab corrections. And the labs are actually tabbed, guys, to make it easy for you to go, because you notice our labs take up after DC, also AC. If you haven't had AC yet, you're going to use this same lab book. Okay. And of course, so mine's a little different. It's got the same title, but it's a different color. The lab book has changed, but there's quite a few corrections in this here, and I didn't want to take the time to go and put it in another lab book when your labs are the same. Okay, does that make sense? So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to look this over. And you're going to look in there, you're going to see if there's any corrections. You're going to document those corrections in your lab. I don't have all these corrections in my head, right? You understand that? So document the corrections to the circuits in the lab book. Everybody okay? Any questions? Write your name in the titles page, on the title page of the experiment. So the title page is always turned in. These lab forms don't state, the lab form comes with me. The labs come back to you eventually, right? You understand that? So these lab forms do not say attached to these labs. If you don't write your name on the lab, then I can't give them back to you. And plus you lose points for that too. The title page must be included with a set of documents required by each experiment. Y'all understand that? Write the date and serial number on all LSC equipment that is not assigned to your team. You're going to be assigned a trainer. You're going to keep that trainer all semester long. You're going to put a piece of tape on there, and you're going to write your team's name on that trainer. Okay, y'all understand that? But when you use an oscilloscope, you can use all the oscilloscopes are different. We have some reason people like using the same oscilloscope, but all of them are exactly the same. We're going to be using function generators. We're going to be using, what else? Some of y'all might be using one of my meters, right? You understand? Because I understand that the meters wasn't over there. So since the meters were not there, if you've got your own meter, then I want you to use your meter. I want you to get used to using your meter. But if you didn't buy a meter right now because they're not in the bookstore, and a lot of the financial aids, you have to get them to the bookstore, then you can use one of my meters. Okay, y'all understand? My meters are bench meters. We're trying to get that taken care of, and hopefully before the end of the before T2 starts, the meter should be over there. And so you're going to need to buy one before the end of the term. But right now, since we messed up, it was our fault. It wasn't the bookstore's fault. The class that requires meters was not taught in sequence. So, and all the other classes don't have the meter on there, but we're correcting that. Clamp-on meter should work. You're going to have problems with a clamp-on meter. We let you buy a clamp-on meter if you're in the electrical program. So if you've got to measure quantities that your meter will not measure, then you'll have to use one of mine. Yeah, if you're in the electrical program, what's that? ILT, the ILT program, then Mr. Sanders wants you to buy a clamp-on amp meter. Unfortunately, clamp-on amp meters don't have the right scales, so you'll have to use one of my meters. But you got to have that. You got to have a meter. They do real good on DC, which will be okay, but they do very poorly on AC. At the end of each lab session, document the date and number of hours, not the time, spent in the lab during the session to the nearest 1/2 hour. Return all chairs to their original location in the classroom. Return all LSEC equipment to its correct storage location, and leave your work area neat. Does that make sense? This is one of the most showed off rooms in the college right here. So they show this room off all the time, and especially the mechatronics lab over there too. So when you leave here, what you want you to do is just make sure it's nice and neat. Make sure your chairs are back over here. So there's 2 chairs back there at that lab station back there. This is my digital class, so I'm gonna have to talk to them. I came in here this morning and these chairs were all spread out all over the place. I've got 2 chairs back there, and that's not what the lab procedure says. Y'all understand? Yes or no? So you're going to start cleaning up this lab before you leave. You're going to put your chairs back under here. You're going to push the keyboard trays in. You're going to put the chairs back under the tables. You're not going to leave them slung out all over the place like you do at your house, right? So y'all understand that one? Man, this is real hard stuff, right? When the team needs a circuit construction signed off or help, one team member must write his or her names on a sign-off sheet that will be located on the course clipboard. So this is the course clipboard, and the sign-off sheet will be on top of here. When I go by circuits, I go by this sign-off sheet. So if I'm coming back from signing somebody off, and you say, "Rich, I need to ask you a question," I'm going to say, "Wait, let me check this sheet." Because who's got their name on this sheet, they deserve to get waited on before you are. And that peeves everybody off, right? You understand? Y'all been in situations where people break in line and stuff like that. Are y'all happy about that? Okay, no. Huh? You love it? One of my pet peeves is I go shopping somewhere and I'm standing at the counter with my money in my hand and the phone rings and they're sitting there 15 minutes talking to a customer they might get. You know what I do? I just put my stuff on the counter and walk off. So I go by the sign-off sheet, guys. I mean, it's just that simple. And you're going to see that in just about every class you take from me. Students in a team must take turns constructing circuits. In the experiment, each team member will document the circuit constructor in the space provided on the lab form. The team member not constructing the circuit will provide connection points. So you're working as a team, right? You understand? So I don't want to see some person sitting over here in the table, your partner's over there wiring up a circuit, and you'll say, well, it wasn't my turn. Okay, y'all understand that? It is a team effort wiring these circuits up. Have the instructor check the circuit for correct construction before applying power. These trainers are very unforgiving about short circuits. So what I'll do is I'll come over there. I'm not checking to see if the circuit is constructed correctly. I'm making sure you don't have a short circuit. What I'll do is I'll initial the circuit saying I made the original check. But that is not a sign-off, right? You understand? So the way this ends up with is when I sign your circuit off, I'll put another initial. I'll put my initials on there twice. So you'll have my initials on there twice. Everybody understand that? And then I'll fill in the sign-off on the lab form. And then after that, you're okay to go on to the next circuit or the next lab. Before tearing down the constructed circuit and after completing all the procedure steps relating to that circuit. So basically you go until it tells you to tear the circuit down or the lab ends. Right, you understand? So all the procedure steps. Now what I'm basically doing is I'm coming over there grading right now. And that way when I grade the labs, all I have to do is answer questions. So I'm going to ask you questions about the circuit. I'm going to check to make sure you filled in everything correctly, right? You understand that. Have the instructor check your circuit for operation and measurements. During the sign-off process, the instructor may ask questions pertaining to the circuit's operation. Once the instructor has confirmed the circuit is operating and you understand the way the circuit operates, the instructor will once again initial the circuit in your lab book and lab form. Circuits that are not constructed by the instructor, checked by the instructor, will have to be, and this is wrong, will have to be reconstructed to receive partial credit. So you'll need to put that little note in there. So if you don't get a circuit signed off, and if you want any credit at all, you're going to have to sign it, and then you're going to get points marked off, right, for not following instructions for one thing. Everybody okay? And I get this question. Each team member must complete a lab grade form for each experiment. So we did this in digital. There was somebody asked that last night, says, well, do we put all the labs on this one form and turn it on? I said, no, you have, and here it is in writing, right? You understand that. So this is why I put this in writing. So not only do we go over it in class, it's also in writing and it's also being recorded. Each team member. So how many lab forms you need? You need one lab form for every lab. Every student has one lab form. So if you're working in with a team, each one of you's got your own lab form. Each one of you turn in the lab. Everybody understand that? Each team member must complete a lab grade form. Students will not be awarded points for portions of experiments completed by team members when they are absent. So it's just like at work. You do not get paid if you don't show up for work. So what that means is if you take off and your team person and your team member is not going to, and I hear this all the time, well, I'm going to go ahead and leave because my partner's not here. That's not the way it works. You go ahead and do your lab. Y'all understand that? And then when the other person comes in, that person takes over where you're at, and they don't get credit for the part that was done when you're here. Now, the labs are scaled at the ends, and odds are that doing that once will not hurt you, but if you come in all the time and you have a lot of absences, it's going to kill you. And that's even in the syllabus. Being absent is going to affect your grade, right? You understand that? Any questions there? Questions at the end of each experiment are not a team effort and must, wait, go back up, I skipped over something. Place the lab form for uncompleted labs on the course clipboard beneath the sign-off sheet. And that's not true, I need to change that. It's turned out a little better for me to put two boxes up here. And you notice one box is in red, it says what? Lab's not ready to be graded. And the other box says what? Lab's ready to be graded. So what I want you to do, instead of putting them on the clipboard because they get lost and people grab them off the clipboard, is anything that you don't want, it's not ready to be graded, lab forms, labs, or whatever you want to leave there. Lab forms never leave here, by the way. So I don't want to hear somebody come in and say, oh, I left my lab form at home. Lab forms do not leave here. Y'all understand that? You can take your labs home if you want to, but lab forms don't leave here. What most people do is go ahead and clip their lab form to their lab and leave that here. So I need to correct that. Place the lab form in, see it says, do not take any lab forms home. Place the lab grade forms for uncompleted labs on the clipboard, so that's what we changed. The lab forms for uncompleted will be returned to each student at the next lab session. And all you do is just go up there and dig them out of the box, right? This makes sense so far. Once you complete experiments, staple the lab grade form to the top of the experiment pages from the lab book in the upper left-hand corner. I've never had to tell anybody that before, but I had one student in motor control stapled them in the upper right-hand corner. I'm right-handed. So you wouldn't believe how much extra time that added to my grade. So I've got my pen here and I'm flipping them in this direction, right? You understand? So I had to add that. Make sure the experiment pages are in the correct order. That bugs me too. Lowest to highest number. We have people that can't count. Place the completed lab experiments in the box labeled what? Labs to be graded. This box is located on top of the trainer storage cabinet. Do not forget to write your name at the space provided on the lab form, which you should have already done, and the experiment's title page. Do not attach checkup quizzes to experiments. So when you get in your lab book, if you come up here and you look in your lab book, after a few groups of labs, you have what we call a checkup. Do you have to turn those in? Yes, you have to turn them in. So this is the checkup for what they call Chapter A. The front of it is usually multiple choice. The back of it is usually fill in the blanks and stuff like that. You are required to do these. This is part of your lab grade. These are basically lab tests. These are not a lab. These are checkups. You don't attach these to anything. You put your name in them and put them in the ready to be graded box. You do not put a lab form on there. This is not a lab. It is a lab test, right? You understand that? Everybody okay? These are not team efforts, by the way. This is your grade. So your lab, your circuit building is a team effort. All the questions at the end of the lab is not a team effort. You need to answer those on your own. That is your grade, right? You understand that? So the way we're supposed to work this is that in this class, when we go to lab, you're in lab. And then when you complete the last circuit, what I'll do is I'll put the date that the lab is due. The lab will be due the next class after you finish that circuit. Now, what we do that is you're supposed to do your lab questions at home. You're supposed to construct circuits here, right? Y'all understand that? So do not attach chapter quizzes to experiments. These are to be turned in separately from the experiment. Do not use the AC lab form for chapter quizzes. I'm sorry. Do not use the lab form on chapter quizzes. All LAC equipment must be returned to its proper storage location before leaving class. This includes your chairs. Do not start another experiment until all the circuits in the current experiments have been completed and all measurements have been recorded. Experiment questions should be answered at home. Labs must be turned in at the beginning of the session, a class session after the last circuit experiment has been signed by the instructor. Completed experiments are to remain in the instructor's office during the entire term. Experiments turned in for grading may be viewed upon request. So sometimes you'll say, I think it's in this class where there's a lab that references another lab. Well, you've already turned in that other lab, but you can ask to see it. The completed experiments will return to the student at the end of the semester upon request. So what we'll do is, if you want the labs back, you get them back. If you don't want them back, I'll shred them. I keep the lab forms. That's my record of your grade. So that's the lab procedures. Any questions? Yeah, digital. I don't know what it is. Somebody's going to hear is going to ask me the question, you know, do I need a lab form for every lab? And here it is in writing, right? Can I put more than one lab on the same lab form? I get that from somebody every semester. Here it is in writing, right? Are you okay? Any questions? Y'all see the lab form? I can't get my document camera to work. I just installed it yesterday. It worked good last night. So y'all look at the lab form over real quick. So I'll get my homemade camera out here. Oops. So what y'all need to put on here, you need to put your name. You need to put what? Your partner's name. The experiment number. This will be the experiment number that's on your lab. We have some handout labs in here. Those will be, and you'll see the number on there is going to be like H01, H02 for handout labs. Okay. In fact, there's no lab in the lab book that has y'all check diodes, and that's one of the first experiments we're going to do. In fact, what we can do on that is that experiment, we're not going to do that as teams, okay, because we got plenty of parts. This is where you're going to keep up with your time, not the time, your time. We'll have people come up here and they'll have 8:46 a.m. in there. So what they did is they recorded the time. I'm not interested in the time. I'm interested with how much time you spend in lab. Right? You understand that? Then here you're going to put in the name of the person that built the circuit. Here you're going to put the figure number that you constructed. And then when I sign it off, and both of you put this on your lab. So Bill Fold might be a partner, and he might be partnered with Fernando Wathmiller, and Bill Fold built it. Well, both of y'all are going to have Bill Fold here, and then you're going to have the figure number, and I'm going to initial this on both platforms. It's just that the next time you build a circuit, you got to do what? You got to swap positions. So that way everybody gets an opportunity to build circuit. And we need to talk to some of our adjunct instructors. I had a few complaints about one of our classes where they said they had 4 people in a group and 2 people built all the circuits, and they had a 4 people lab team. So they had students that never even touched. We had students in digital that had never even touched the trainer. Huh? And so that's not the way it's supposed to work, guys. We're supposed to take turns, right? So we're going to have to talk to our adjuncts and make sure they understand that. And we don't need 4 people on a trainer. We got probably 50 of these trainers around here. For some reason, they don't let us know. And this is another problem. You know, if you've got problems with your trainer, don't just stick it back up here and get another one. What you need to do. Yeah, and this happens all the time. I mean, I'll even hear adjuncts come up here and say, I mean, we don't have any trainers that's working, and this is the first time we even heard about it. We can repair these trainers. We got all the parts we need to fix them when they break. but I can't fix them unless I know they're what? Unless I know they're broke. So y'all run any trainers over there when y'all was taking those classes that didn't work? By the way, you're going to be assigned a trainer. We got a roll of masking tape out here somewhere, and that's what you're going to do. You're going to take, and so there's none of this stuff where 30 minutes before class is out, you say, well, I don't have time to start on that circuit. That's not true. You can start on this circuit. The trainer is assigned to you. That circuit will be right where you left it. Now, you need to make sure you document where you are, right, so you'll understand where you're at. So I've got an alarm that goes off. If you leave before that alarm goes off, you will be counted tardy. But what it is, it's about 15 minutes, and it's my 15 minutes, right? You understand? And we'll start cleaning up. We'll give y'all time to clean up before the class is up. If you leave before that alarm goes off, and most of y'all see the song, they'll get used to the song. Y'all know what that means. That's the way it works. So this is the lab, guys. I mean, and you don't do anything down here. This is my section. This is where I'll start taking off points. We're pretty lenient the first 4 weeks of the class. Pretty lenient on grading because y'all trying to learn the way I do things. But then after the first 4 weeks, we really start buckling down on this. You need to start learning how to follow instructions. You get out on a work job and you never follow instructions, you're not going to be working there very long. Either you're going to get hurt or they're going to fire you. Okay, y'all understand that? So we need to follow these. Any questions on this? Yes or no? Okay, so the first lab we're going to do is a handout lab. If I can find it. Is there somewhere? And it's going to let y'all check some diodes. You'll get these diodes from me. And you'll get the stuff from me, and then you'll turn it back in. I do this every time. Then after that, this is the list of the labs we're working on this term. So the ones that start off with HO, these are ones that I'm going to give you, right? The ones that start off with a number, that should be the lab number in your textbook. I mean, not your textbook, in your lab book. We okay? Yeah, Mitchell's okay. We had a guy in our class one time. His name was, I'll never forget, Ray Reese. He was a good guy, but he wore big old thick glasses about that thick. And then he had this thing he'd pull down with a big old thing on it. And when he turned up and looked at you, all you could see was one big old eye, so we started calling him Cyclops. He had lights on the thing, too. I mean, Ray was a good guy. But everybody in the class started calling him Cyclops because he wouldn't pull that thing up. By the way, there's a lighted magnifying glass workbench in here. So we're going to be dealing with parts that's got very small numbers. So that means if you got a magnifying glass, that's great. If you don't have one, then in here on one of these benches inside the storage room is a bench light with a magnifying glass on it. So y'all more than can use that. You're more than welcome to use that. In fact, that would blow it up so big you wouldn't be able to see it. Huh?
I noticed you looked at the old man back here.
You're young. You're young. Huh? I'm the old man in the class.
Oh.
In fact, I could retire and draw full Social Security by the way.
Thinking how old you?
By the way, y'all want? Yeah, I was talking about retiring at the end of this semester, and my wife says, you don't need to retire. So y'all okay? Y'all see the labs we're going to be working on this semester, right? Y'all understand that? Y'all don't need lab kits right now, but the second lab we're going to do is inventory. And we'll pick out a lab kit up here out of the circuits and let y'all inventory it. By the way, when you inventory it, you find a part that's missing. So any extra parts, I want you to give them back to me. Any parts that you have missing, don't come up here and start roaming through the drawers trying to find them. Let me know. And then we'll get your kits ready, right? You'll understand we won't constantly be having this problem. Everybody okay? So it says the second lab is what? I think it's inventory. What's the second? Inventory. And that's a handout lab too. So I'll run that off.
We need a meter.
Yes.
Okay. Don't worry about it.
Well, yeah, you can do that, or you can, right now you can go and find it.
All right.
These are the power cords for, we have power cords here for the meters. Go to each one of my meters. Make sure you hang it back up there at the end of the curve. The meter leads and hanging on the side of that cabinet here if you need to use one of my meters. The workbenches, by the way, are here. We have 5 of them around the wall right here. Y'all more than welcome. In fact, I would prefer y'all do it that way, so that way you can drop parts. You won't get the keyboards. We'll try to do this as individuals. So I think we got plenty of meters for everybody. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, we got plenty of meters. So everybody can use one of these, but I would prefer, if you got your meter, I would prefer you use your own meter. That way you need to get practice using that thing. Okay, guys, let's go. Now take a break. Let's take a break and then go. 10 minutes. Or if you want to, you can start on it. It's up to you.
Yeah.